Hey everyone, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at the C&L Performance Front Brake Calipers in red, fitting 2012 to 2020 Challenger GT, RT, Rally Redline, SXT, and TA models with the dual piston front calipers. Now you don't want to mess around with things when it comes to your brakes, and as your Challenger ages or gets miles piled onto it, you might find your brakes lacking in stopping power. And if that's the case, one of the possible culprits might be your calipers. So if you find that your car is in need of new calipers, these are going to get you stopping on a dime once more. They make a great replacement for worn out stock units. They don't require any modifications to fit. They utilize stock brake pads and rotors, and they provide a nice pop of color. Plus, they'll cost you a lot less than a replacement from Mopar themselves. Now, brake calipers aren't super complicated despite what they might look like. There's just a few slide pins, some pistons, and some seals, and really that's about it. But if any one of those components wears out or starts leaking, that's not gonna be good for you. So what we have here are a set of completely refreshed and remanufactured stock calipers. So C&L takes a set of original OEM stock calipers, pulls them apart, makes sure all the tolerances are right, cleans them up, fits new seals, pistons, etc. So these are about as fresh can be, and they are again a direct replacement for your stock calipers because they are the same type of two-piston floating design as your originals because they are the same. These are just refreshed, refurbished, and better. That of course means that they're gonna work with factory-sized rotors and pads. That means that running costs are gonna be low, and it'll be easy to get new pads and rotors when you do need them. Plus, these come right out of the box already finished in this bright red for some added protection and a nice pop of color, so you'll save having to do that part yourself. And though we all like an aesthetic improvement, the most important part is that at the end of the day, these are completely refreshed calipers. Again, all the seals are fresh, new premium units, so they'll be all sealed up nice and tight. That means you're not gonna have any issues with pressure or leaks. They've all been inspected and pressure tested before leaving the factory as well, so you can be certain that they're gonna work right the first time. And of course, they're gonna look good for a long time as well, thanks to that high heat red electrostatic finish over top. And they come ready to bolt on. You even get all the hardware you need included in the kit too, so it makes for a pretty simple installation, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. Pricing for this setup will come in at about $200, which is a really good price, considering the fact that just one caliper from Mopar will cost you nearly as much, if not more, than this pair. So if you want or need new calipers, this is a great way to get them for a fraction of the cost from the dealership. Installation is gonna get a 2 out of 3, and the job should take you about 3 hours to complete. These again will be a bolt-on replacement for your stock calipers, absolutely no modifications required. However, replacing calipers is going to require you to bleed the brake system. So you'll either need to get a friend to help you or get a brake bleeder tool to complete the job. Either way though, it's not a terrible job to do, just one that's gonna take you some time. With that, let's head out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, hose pliers, 10 and 18 millimeter wrenches, a caliper hook, an extension, 10, 13, and 21 millimeter swivel sockets, 10 and 13 millimeter sockets, and a device to bleed your brakes. What's up guys? Today we're installing brakes on our Challenger, so let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is attack our brake line. We're going to have to loosen up the bolt on our banjo fitting. I'm going to put a pair of hose pliers on the hose here so we don't lose a bunch of fluid, and we're going to disconnect the bolt holding our brake line bracket in place. So I've got a 10 millimeter socket to remove that bolt. And then I'll take a hose clamp to pinch our brake line. Next, we're gonna open up our clamshell to pop our brake pads out. So we have a 13 millimeter bolt here holding that together and an 18 millimeter nut that we can get a wrench on to hold. So 18 millimeter wrench, 13 millimeter socket to pull that bolt out. And then once we have that bolt out, we can open up our clamshell and pop our pads out of place. And then you can just throw that bolt back in for now. Next, we're going to remove the 2 bolts holding our caliper bracket into the knuckle. So I've got a caliper hook here that I'm going to hook onto the coil of the strut And I'm gonna hook the other end to the caliper. That way we don't put any tension on our brake line. So then we can take a 21mm socket to remove our 2 bolts. And then before you remove the second one, just get a hand on the caliper so it doesn't fall. And then we'll pull our caliper off and hook it up onto our strut. Now we can fully remove our banjo bolt and get our caliper uninstalled. So we'll take a 13mm socket. I've got a drain pan here underneath to catch all the fluid that comes out of our caliper. And then you can repeat that same process on the other side. So now we're ready to install our new caliper. So I'm going to slide this into place. And then we can thread in our 2 bolts. And then once you have your bolts started, you can take a 21mm socket and tighten them down. Next, I'm going to take a 13mm socket and 18mm wrench to remove this bolt to open up our clamshell so we can install our hardware and our pads. So now we can pull this down, and then we'll take our included hardware, slide that into place, do the same thing on the top. Now with our 2 brackets in place, we can take some brake lube to lube up our brackets. And then we can grab our 2 brake pads. Now we've got the circle holes from the piston on here, so we know this one's for the back. And the one without is going to be for the front. So we'll slide it in just like that, and then I'll do that same thing on the back here. And then we'll close up our clamshell and thread our bolt back in. And I'll grab my 13mm socket and 18mm wrench to tighten that down. Next, we can reinstall our brake line. Now we've got a new banjo bolt included in the kit. I've got one of our crush washers on the bolt. So I'll put that through our fitting. And then we have another crush washer that's going on the other side of our fitting. So now we'll pull this cap out of our threads. And then we can begin to thread our bolt in. Now once you got that threaded into place, you'll take a 10mm socket to tighten it the rest of the way down. You just want to tighten down until that copper washer starts to crush. And then we can pull our hose pliers off. And now the last thing we have to do is reinstall the bolt that holds our brake line bracket into place. We'll thread that in and then take my 10mm socket to tighten it down. And then you can repeat that whole process on the other side. So now we're ready to bleed our brakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is start from the furthest away caliper from the master cylinder, which is gonna be the passenger side rear. Now, even though we're just doing front calipers, it's a good idea to bleed them all once you do it. So you'll go passenger rear, passenger front, driver front. We're here on the driver front now. We got the last one. So we're gonna come to our bleeder valve and pop that cap off. We'll get a 10mm wrench on here first, and then we'll get a tube to bleed them. I've got kind of a homemade brake bleeding device. Got a water bottle with some brake fluid in the bottom here so we don't suck air back into the caliper. I've got a hole drilled in the top for a tube and another smaller hole to relieve pressure inside the bottle so you don't build up pressure and have brake fluid go everywhere. So now I'll get this 10mm wrench onto the bleeder valve, and then I can put the tube on. And now I've got my buddy inside the driver's seat, so I'm gonna tell him to pump the brake pedal and hold it. While he's holding, I'm gonna crack this bleeder valve open, and then I'll close it, and then he can take his foot off the brake, and then we'll just repeat that cycle until we have a steady stream of fluid coming out of our caliper. So go ahead and pump up the brakes. Right now we have a ton of air bubbles coming out, so we're just gonna repeat this until all those bubbles are gone. So press the brakes. Press the brakes. Press the brakes. Press the brakes. So now we've got that steady stream of fluid, so we're all done with this one. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the C&L Performance Series front brake calipers in red for your 2012 to 20 Challenger GT, RT, Rally Redline, XXT, and TA with dual piston front calipers. Thank you for watching, and for all things Challenger, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.